What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Here on YouTube, of course, this is M Cubed, and I'm Schmook. It's been a little bit. I wasn't able to record last week. It was just a hectic week. Today's a little better, but now we should be getting able to get back onto that track of Mondays for Comic Adaptations Weekly. I know it's been Tuesdays for a good while, and it's just me today. Didn't have much time to discuss with some pals if they wanted to join in. I only have a couple who have seen X-Men 97, which we will be talking about, of course. Next week, I might try to get my buddy Tom or my buddy Luke, since they're big fans of the show. Because here's the thing. So I plan on going over these first 7 episodes, right? Because it's a 10-episode series, and the last 3, it's a 3-part event finale situation. So I thought it would be fun to just talk about that as a whole next week. It's hard to have those knowledge because there's stuff I really want to talk about, but it's okay. But X-Men 97, I know I've been wanting to talk about it for a while. It's like some of the only new comic book content we've been getting as of late. Sure, there's Invincible as well, which I still have not gotten caught up on. That's on me. But I'm also not hearing the best things about it, so it makes me kind of not want to. But I'll get around to it. Like you can trust me on that. Anyway. So I'm not sure what we're gonna talk about after X-Men 97. I might go back to how we used to, just talk about some old movies and or TV shows and get after it. Okay? Because I don't think we have anything big until June where we can talk about The Boys each week, right? I could be wrong if there's something else coming before then, but it is what it is. We're also going to get Daryl Dixon season 2, which we'll be able to talk about. We're going to have a lot to talk about here soon. But until then, we don't have too much. I also would like to try to eventually get a Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes video or stream to you guys in the near future. Yes, it's not a comic adaptation, but I would like to do that here on the channel because the movie kicks ass. Big fan. Love that whole. Love the rebooted Planet of the Apes movies as a whole. I think they're all excellent. This new one it's just as good as any of the ones we've seen. I don't think it's. I think it might be my least favorite one. I'm not sure. My buddies Brad and Brandon, they'd love to talk about it. Bob may even want to talk about it. So I'm gonna have to talk to them, try to plan a day to do it. This week's pretty busy, though. If possible, maybe Wednesday, but I don't know if there's time. And tomorrow, who knows? But anyway, and if you're in the chat, say hey. Say hey. Anyway, so without further ado, we can get into it. I wanted to go over a little news first. Because there was one thing. We usually don't talk too much on the news front. But I want to kind of start... put that into the weekly streams. Excuse me. Felt like I had a burp going. Excuse me. Anyway, little gas. Anyway. The big thing that I have noticed, that's like going around like Twitter or X, is this new potential TV show that we're getting from the MCU. And this was the big thing that I'm like, I want to talk about this a little. All right. So it's the idea of that Captain America is getting a TV show. Chris Evans is coming back for the role. That's the news. And the idea of the show is what a lot of people are speculating it's going to be a 6-episode miniseries type thing, right? Where each episode will handle Cap putting an Infinity Stone back in the time which they took it from. And the other idea to it is that it's like a lot of the multiversal shit's going to be happening at the same time and it can end and be like the ultimate lead up to Secret Wars, where before, like even after, my speculation is that before he decides to just chill out with Peggy, he's going to get pulled out at the time where he gets rid of the last Infinity Stone. He's going to get pulled and be a part of the Secret Wars. So it's like the Cap that we see at the end of Endgame has also been through the events of Secret Wars, and maybe more. But he eventually goes back to the time of Peggy, where we see Old Man Steve and now Falcon's Captain America, right? So that's my thought. I think that show can kick ass. And it's also heavily speculated that it's the show that Scarlett Johansson is attached to produce. So I can easily see this being a thing where, of course, whenever he gives the Soul Stone back, maybe she is able to come back to life, since that's how you get the Soul Stone, is that sacrifice, right? So I think that would be sick. But that's the speculation, because, of course, there was the whole lawsuit with ScarJo and Disney, and now she's able to produce a TV show. And that's what I think this is, because I don't see what any other thing that'd be coming up in the pipeline that would be what she's attached to but this, because it makes a lot of sense. Because, of course, her character died because of the Soul Stone. So, yeah, that was the big thing. That was the only main thing I wanted to discuss news-wise. Of course, we got, it's not super new, but a new Deadpool and Wolverine trailer looks sick. Just amped to see my boy Hugh back as Logan. But we're still a couple months away from that. I can't wait for that live stream. I think I'm gonna have a lot of good buddies on there to talk about it. And I just think it's gonna be such a good movie. But anyway, let's go into X-Men, okay? Because that's what this episode's about. And I can't. This isn't gonna be the longest stream in the world, because I got a lot of shit to do. Me and my buddy Brad, we finally finished our pilot. Excuse me, to the superhero show that we've been working on. So hopefully, we're gonna send it into this contest, and if we win, we're gonna get some money and we're gonna get some contacts to potentially bring it to you guys one day. And I think that'd be awesome. I would love to. This is our ultimate passion project. I would love for you guys to be able to watch it one day. And maybe me and Brad will do some exclusive stuff on this channel to talk about it. So that, we'll see. That's a bit down the pipeline, I would say, but just a heads up. X-Men 97. Let's see. Sakaar. I mean, fair enough. But she's always had that little bit of like that country southern accent to me whenever I even read her in the comics. And of course, from the original animated series, I think she sounds pretty similar. But if you don't like it, that's fine. But I don't know, man. At the end of episode 5, which we'll get to, the way she delivers those lines, I'm like, that's heartbreaking stuff to me. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But I'm a fan. Overall, when it comes to the voice acting as a whole, I think it's all been pretty solid. I think like I'm loving the guy who's voicing Charles, because he's in The Walking Dead. He also voices Red Skull in the MCU. So he's been doing a lot with Marvel. Yeah, okay, that's fair. I accept that. I agree. It's a little, but I don't think she's in that many sexual scenes as opposed to the original show. I mean, there's like one. I mean, of course, in episode 5, like her dancing with Magneto is fantastic. I love that scene. But of course, you don't need her talking in that scene. But I'm with you. I am with you. It's not as appealing, I would say. I don't think it annoys me, though. I don't know if it annoys you, Sakaar, but I'm a fan. But yeah, I guess we need to start off the first episode. So, first episode, of course, it dropped whenever the show first started airing. And I remember watching the episode. I think I watched it a few days later. I didn't immediately get on the hype of X-Men 97, but once I watched the first episode, I'm like, okay, so far Marvel's cooking in this animation department, because I like What If. I do like What If, but I will say, based off the first episode alone, I'm like, oh, we're in for a treat. Like, it seems like a true fan is writing these X-Men characters. And the animation, I think, just looks so much better compared to What If. I think the What If animation, they could do so much better, in my opinion. But overall, I think the story of What If is good. But again, I just think this X-Men 97 stuff is awesome. I think they are killing it with the animation. But again, I just remember seeing them in these costumes for the first time. You have Scott says, "To me, my X-Men," just like Charles does, right? Because he's the leader. He's the leader of the X-Men. And I just thought it was awesome, And it's like, I think the first episode, I will say, is probably my second least favorite episode based off memory. And it's been a while. I've only watched that episode once. I've only watched every episode one time. But nothing truly spectacular hit me from the first episode. I mean, again, it's still that introduction to the world. You meet, what's his name? Sunspot? No, that's not right. Roberto is his name. I can't remember his alias, but anyway, he's cool. I like him and Jubilee's relationship. They have very similar skill set, like power set, I should say. But yeah, I mean, it's just cool to see all these characters again, and it's like Marvel seems to know how to work or use these characters so far in terms of what I've seen under Kevin Feige handling them, right? Because I really liked Charles in Multiverse of Madness. You get that quick little snippet of Beast at the end of the Marvels in the after credit scene, but we haven't really seen too much of the X-Men in live action. But like this animated show, it's like, okay, like they are really hitting it with like how these characters act, what their relationships are like, the sexualness of this found family they have, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of sexual undertone within the show, and obviously it's not too graphic at all, but it's like, that's the nice thing. I like that sexiness that comes with the X-Men, and I think they hammer that pretty excellently within this. And again, it's found family. They say it in one of the newer episodes. It's like blood is blood, but family is deeper than blood, or something like that, right? And I think it's very accurate. It's very accurate. Because I feel that in my life alone, and that's why I love the X-Men, because they are a found family that obviously I think any of us can really understand. It's like, blood is blood. I mean, like, you have your mom, you have your dad, you have your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, blah, blah, blah. Of course you love them. But there's the people you meet throughout this journey of life that aren't blood, but they are family, and like you choose this family. You don't choose your blood. But that's what I love about what this show conveys, is that, these people didn't know each other, but then they've been through so many life and death moments together, and their family. I've been really enjoying the Storm and Jean or Madeline connection within this show. Anyway, so episode 2, I remember really liking, because that's when we find out that Magneto was the X-Men were left to him in the will of Charles Francis Xavier, which is sick. Because I love Magneto, and of course, obviously, Scott and Jean are like, why did he not leave them to us? Like, we were his first students. We lead these X-Men, but you're gonna hand the keys over to the dude we've been fighting for years. So it's a little bit of a head scratcher, right? But I think it makes sense, because Magneto is obviously Charles' oldest friend, and like Charles thinks maybe Eric would be able to learn from his X-Men. The idea of like, all right, like we are going to protect humanity, but also protect mutant lives at the same time. And I think Magneto gets that for a little while. So I think that episode's really good. I'm a big fan of that one. Then we get to episode 3, which I believe is the which episode is 3? I think that's a lot, or no. I'm trying to remember which episode has a lot of the Charles stuff, how he's up in space. I'm blanking on episode 3, so my bad, guys. If someone in the chat can give me a quick reminder on episode 3. But I do love, again, like the stuff with Charles. I believe that's episode 4, where you get the Jubilee and Roberto stuff, and you get the never mind. I remember. So I believe by the end of episode 2, Storm loses her powers, right? And then we get into episode 3, which is a very good episode. So I can't believe I was forgetting about it. But that's where you get Mr. Sinister, and you have the whole Madeline, like the whole clone of Jean Grey stuff happening. It's like you have the birth of Nathan from Madeline. You have, again, you get the real Jean back. Just an overall great episode. Again, I love Mr. Sinister, and I'm excited to hear that supposedly he's going to be the first live action villain for the X-Men when it comes to the X-Men film that they're making. Excuse me. That's a current rumor, as well as supposedly The Rock is being casted as Apocalypse, which I don't put a lot of stock into that. Because again, like this X-Men movie is so far away, but who knows? Because Apocalypse could easily be in Secret Wars. Because him and I don't remember the Kang variant's name, excuse me, but the one that was the Pharaoh of Egypt, and of course him and Ensab Noor, who is Apocalypse, have a connection of some sort. So I think that's an interesting concept, and that's how you can also bring in X-Men by bringing in the first mutant as well. So I think that'd be sick. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. Well, I thought episode 3 was solid. Definitely solid. But so far out of the first 3, 2's my favorite because I did love a lot of the stuff with Magneto. I like seeing him in the suits. I like the whole ending sequence where Storm loses her powers, right? Then we get to episode 4, where I think this is definitely my least favorite episode of the show, but I still think it has really good stuff. Because, like, to be fair, even though it's my least favorite, I think it has some very cool stuff. Like, again, I love, and as a whole, I think X-Men 97 is just top notch. I like, even though it's my least favorite episode, it's like me saying how King of the Planet of the Apes, as of right now, only after one viewing, I think that's my least favorite out of the Apes movies. I'll ponder that a little bit more, and I might try to see it one more time before doing a live stream, but we'll see. But again, when it comes to this, it's my least favorite. But again, the show is top notch. I think it's top notch stuff. But again, I love like how Roberto and Jubilee are in this retro arcade like X-Men game, and like just the animation in this episode is sick. I'm a big fan of when they're in like they're literally, it's like I'm watching like a YouTube video in a way on this X-Men arcade game, or that's on the Sega Genesis, or the I believe it was on the Super Nintendo as well. I think. But again, I love that game. There's this bar that that's not super close to me, but not far, that I go to on occasion that has like all these retro arcade games. They have an X-Men arcade game there, and it's so much fun. It's a fun arcade game. So I thought that was sick. And then again, and then you get that first part of life death within this episode as well, which is Storm trying to regain her powers. She's with Forge, who's also a really cool character. Again, I think they hammer all these characters very well, like how they're supposed to act, who they are, what they bring to the table for the X-Men as a whole. But Forge is cool. And then I think we get to the episode where I'm like, okay, we're watching some of the best MCU content we've had in a long time, I would say, because again, What If Season 2 is solid, but I don't think it compares to what we've been watching in X-Men 97. And then I'd say probably the last great MCU content we've gotten is No Way Home. Even though there's other good stuff, don't get me wrong. Like I'm even a fan of She-Hulk, but it's not on par to what we've gotten in the past, right? But yeah, No Way Home I'd say is the last great MCU. Even though I'm also a huge fan of Shang-Chi. I like the Eternals. I think Multiverse of Madness is criminally underrated. I do think it's actually quite a masterpiece within the MCU, but I digress. This show is where I'm like, yeah, MCU is cooking in the animation department. So episode 5 is where they're at Genosha. It's where like a bunch of mutants live, and then you get this like literally a kaiju level huge Sentinel attacks. And this is where Madeline dies, who's the clone of Jean Grey, who Nathan has this complicated relationship with, because one, she's the mother of his son, who's Cable, right? And obviously this is a girl he loves because, I mean, she's basically more or less Jean, but she's just a clone of Jean. And I think that's crazy. I love this whole this is a canon event type of thing that Cable mentions. Like, he's tried to come back to this moment in time to try to stop it so many different times, which I love that aspect. Of course, we get that in Across the Spider-Verse, where it's like, this is a canon event. This is something that cannot be changed or destroys everything. It's a canon event. It has to happen for these people's lives. But this episode is so sick. Like, again, I mentioned it earlier. I love the whole dance sequence with Magneto and Rogue, because of course that's a relationship that Rogue is very attracted to, because like she can actually touch Magneto's skin without hurting him, and of course she's in love with Remy LeBeau, who's Gambit clearly, who's always been one of my favorite X-Men. But when we get to the end of this whole episode, and you have Gambit just go off, shows that he's an Omega level mutant, and he takes down this Sentinel, but he dies, and just how like just the voice acting from Rogue here, which is why I just think she killed it in the scene where she's like, "Sugar, I can't feel you," and it's like, and how she says that, I'm just like, holy shit. This is, I think, a very powerful moment. And I think a lot of people felt that too. Like, if you're watching this week to week, you're like, yeah, this is top tier comic book shit that we've been getting. And it's been really good up until this point also, but it's like, this was the episode where I'm like, wow, like X-Men 97 is straight cooking. But yeah, I love this episode. Then we get to episode 6, which I think is solid. I think in terms of animation, this episode was pretty trippy, because it's like it has to do with Storm finally getting her powers back, and she has this demon after her. I can't remember the name of the demon, but just the way it looks, the way some of these sequences look, it's like, dude, this is like straight. One, it looks like anime. 2, it's like holy shit, like it's kind of scary stuff. And I'm like, wow. At times, I'm like, when I'm watching this show, I actually can't believe that it's like kids can watch it, because at times I'm like, it's some heavy stuff. I don't know if I would show my kids this show. I don't have kids, but if I had children, and let's say they're like 5 or 6 years old, I don't know if I'm putting this on for them. I don't think it's not that gruesome. It's not like Invincible, but it's like, it's still some heavy subject matter. But I digress. I would probably show my kids this eventually, because I mean, I'd show them the original animated series. Same with the original animated Spider-Man series, which, of course, at the end of episode 7, we get that would have been episode 8. So I might be jumping the gun a little bit. But should be stuff we talk about next week. But I mean, again, we start to get some pretty sick cameos, starting with episode 7. Where they're starting to finally bring in some of these other characters within the Marvel Universe, where you see General Thunderbolt Ross in episode 7, and then you see, because this is where Rogue is just freaking out, because the whole last episode was all about Storm. So now we're finally getting what comes after Genosha, when Gambit dies, and Magneto is supposedly dead, right? This episode, we get introduced to Bastion. I believe this is the episode we get introduced to him, who of course is like this humanoid sentinel who can control. He's a technopath, which is like a telepath, which but instead of like human minds, it's machine minds. So he's able to control all these sentinels. So it's crazy. So he's a really cool villain. I don't know his actual like name. I just refer to him as Bastion, but big fan of his introduction. You get a little bit of his origin, and then he releases these humanoid sentinels, where they're like, it's like he's manufactured. There's these very human mutant killers, which is crazy because they could be anywhere. So this is the threat the mutants had to face. But anyway, so my favorite part about this episode, though, was, again, how Rogue is just going crazy. Like, she breaks into this bunker where you get a Hulk reference from Thunderbolt Ross. He's like, she's not able to get in here. We're in a bunker that can withstand the Incredible Hulk. I'm like, awesome. Great reference. And, of course, then we get introduced. Well, not introduced, but then we see Captain America within this episode, and he wants to help. But Rogue's just so pissed off. She throws his shield so far away where it's like, Cap, are you even going to be able to find this damn thing? So I thought that was sick. But based on what happens, of course, we'll talk about it more next week because I do want to talk about the whole finale as a whole in next week's video. But again, we see some other Avengers, and if you've seen the show, you know who I'm talking about. You see at least two other ones, even though one's not actually there. One is what's his name? Morph. Yeah, Morph is pretending to be one. And then we see another one during this EMP blast that Magneto does to shut down machines on the planet. It gets me amped because I think in the finale you could see a lot of different Avengers come to help out the X-Men, or it could lead into a season 2 where we might get an Avengers versus X-Men type thing, which I also believe might potentially be a film we get on the horizon here soon. Because there's a little bit of some rumors going around that we're gonna get the Kang Dynasty, like the next Avengers movie live action, right? And then a lot of people would think after that we'd get Secret Wars, like this is a 2-part thing. But again, we're gonna get San Diego Comic-Con this year, where I think we're gonna get a lot of information from Marvel, which we haven't gotten a ton of as of late. So I think this is gonna be a point where they're gonna try to like knock out all these scoopers and just be like, all right, we're gonna tell you what's happening. We actually know what's happening this time, not like when they announced the whole slate. What was it like 4 years ago? Whenever they announced Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty, I think we're going to get a third Avengers movie in between Dynasty and Secret Wars. And that's what a lot of people are thinking. And a lot of people think that it could be an Avengers versus X-Men movie where they end up fighting each other. And then it's like a Civil War type event where halfway through they might come together. And that's when we might get like God Emperor Thanos, or not God Emperor Thanos, but like King Thanos, because then we might get this famous shot from Secret Wars where Doom rips out the spine of Thanos by the end of that movie, and then of course Doom will be God Emperor Doom of the Void or Battle World, and that's how we get Secret Wars. So I think that would be really sick, where you get Kang, then you get Thanos back. And then you get Doom as this whole new Avengers trilogy that we're going to get within probably 3 years of each other. I think that'd be sick. I really hope that's what Feige is cooking up because he knows that he has to do something huge, monumental to bring the fan base back. And I think Deadpool is going to be a good start with that. Eventually, we're going to get Spider-Man 4, which, of course, is always beneficial to Kevin Feige because No Way Home was a massive hit. But again, if you can bring Thanos back as this multiversal Thanos who won, but instead of wanting to wipe out half the Earth, wants to wipe out all of existence and be this king of the multiverse potentially. But that's where you got to get Doom to come in and be like, in the one world where there's like no crime, no nothing. It's when Doom is in charge. But of course, the Avengers believe in the whole idea of choice and free will. Instead of just one guy running the show, so I think it can make some interesting conflict. It can also bring in a villain that the audience can honestly understand. That's how it was with Thanos within Infinity War and Endgame, where of course this Thanos in this hypothetical Avengers vs. X-Men movie would just be a complete murder-hungry Thanos, which I think would be awesome. Because that's what can bring the X-Men and Avengers together, is this unreal threat. Whew. But, we just got to hope that Fantastic Four kicks ass. And I know I kind of just went on to a little bit of a tangent about the future of the MCU, but we're going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to that, because once this show ends, which the show could end with something that could become pretty multiversal, where that's what brings in these X-Men to the MCU potentially, but we don't know that. But we'll know that in a couple days when we see the final episode. But I just look forward to the future here, guys, because San Diego Comic-Con, I think, it will show a lot of stuff. I think Feige's going to be like, listen, this is what we got. This is who's attached to this director-wise. This is who's casted as this. Might announce the X-Men movie, maybe some casting. That's in a couple months. And of course, it's going to be like right around when Deadpool's coming out. So that's going to be a lot of hype towards that movie as well, where we're truly getting some X-Men in the MCU. And of course, we might see some Avengers within this movie as well. Deadpool and Wolverine interacting with, let's say, a Captain America or Tony Stark. I mean, come on, people are gonna eat that alive. I'm excited, and I hope to one day see Spider-Man interact with Deadpool. I think it's gonna be a fun moment. But all right, guys, I guess I'm gonna rank these episodes for you, and then I think I'm gonna call it quits because I mean this is good little short 30-minute live stream, kind of get all the points across from each episode. Next week's like with the whole finale, I'm going to go pretty deep into the episodes, because but again, this show is so awesome. If you haven't been watching X-Men, please do. But I mean, if you haven't been watching it, I don't know if you should be watching this video, but anyway, I think my favorite episode within these first 7 episodes is by far in a way, episode 5. Like with the whole Genosha event, and like you get Cable, you get Gambit's death, you get the supposed death of Magneto, where of course we find out he's alive and in captivity by Bastion. Crazy moments where Bastion's literally just shaving the face of Magneto, which I think is crazy. Anyway, and so I think that's by far and away the best episode I think of the show still. As much as I love these last 2 episodes we got up to date, I still think 5 is the best, where I think the finale I think will potentially be the best, but we'll see. So 5 I think is my favorite. Then I would go probably 2 and then 3. And then I think I'd go 6, then I'd go 7, and then I'd go 1, then 4 is my least favorite. Even though I like a lot of the stuff in 4, it's just like half it's a setup for the life-death part, or it's life-death or life-debt part 2, which I think is a great way. It shows Storm getting her powers back. You can tell she's an Omega level mutant. Like her showcasing her powers when she gets it back is a great sequence. But again, just that first half, just her with Forge, like without powers, it's like it's fine. But then again, you get the Jubilee and Roberto stuff. But yeah, again, it's my least favorite episode, but I still found it to be a very enjoyable episode overall. But again, like this show is just excellent. The animation's unreal. I love seeing some of these powers showcased. Specifically, Storm and Jubilee have been like 2 of my favorite characters to watch in this show, because like whenever they're showcasing their powers, and like this animation is top notch with them. I wish Magneto, I wish him showcasing his powers was a little cooler. I don't really love seeing like these orange rings or yellow rings whenever he's trying to. I don't think it's necessary, but it's cool. It's still cool, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. Even though Magneto is my favorite X-Men character, one of my favorite characters in all of fiction is Magneto, and I think they've handled him pretty awesomely. I'm not in love with his suit that's in when he's an X-Men. But it is what it is. But anyway, guys, so I hope you enjoyed. I thought this was a fun little stream. Again, I love talking Marvel. You know, I wish we'd get some more DC stuff around the corner. I guess we did see a first look from Superman that we can talk about a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I really like the actor who's going to be playing Kal-El, but I think the suit just doesn't look great. It kind of looks MCU-ified, and I don't love that. It's like, be your own different thing. I know you're James Gunn, but you don't need to make your DC universe just the MCU of DC characters. I mean, I think it can work that way, but I think these characters are just far deeper and less fun as a whole, as opposed to the Marvel characters, where it's like, of course, both sides can get very dark, but DCI to see is that darker universe as a whole, and with more, that's why I love the Zack Snyder stuff. And of course, I'm gonna be there and see the movie, like, because I love James Gunn's work. I really enjoyed his Suicide Squad. Peacemaker actually enjoyed, and of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is unreal. But it's just I don't know if he's the guy to do Superman, because I don't love this outfit. But again, he's a good writer. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. And then I guess we got Chris Pratt saying today that it's like, hey, are you willing? Are you going to be in the James Gunn DC universe, or are you going to return as Star-Lord? And he goes, why not both? So I think it's interesting. When he said that, I did kind of think, what could he be? I would not mind him being. I think he'd be a good Hal Jordan, if I'm being honest. I do think he'd be an overall better like Guy Gardner, but of course we have what's his name? He's gonna be in the Superman movie. Oh, Nathan Fillion. Yeah, he's supposedly Guy Gardner, which will be cool. But we'll see. Of course, you got Chris Pratt. I will watch whatever he's in. I'm a big Chris Pratt guy. But yeah. Right, guys, I think that's going to do it here. I got to go eat dinner, and I got to go talk with Brad about our scripts. We got to do some revisions because we have the first final draft done with 50 pages. It's good stuff, but of course, there's going to be some tweaks here or there. So yeah, look forward to sharing that with you guys in the near future, hopefully, but we'll see. Right, guys, always love talking with you. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Tell your friends. Let me know what you think about X-Men 97 in the comments down below, and maybe rank your episodes if you want to. I would love to know your guys' opinion, of course. But all right, guys, I'll catch y'all very soon. Tune in next week. All right, bye-bye.